Ah, finally! Let's Jar Jar Binks! Maybe this movie will be good, right? Hello? I don't like sand. It's rough, it's messy. It gets everywhere. Not like this place. Ah! Star Wars Episode 2 Attack of the Clones stars Ian McGregor, Hayden Christensen, and Natalie Portman and is directed by George Lucas. Now, just to warn you guys, this is a classic movie review, so I'm frankly gonna have to warn you guys, there will be spoilers in this review, so spoiler alert. Well, Attack of the Clones opens up on Coruscant. Senator Padme Amidala from Naboo has come to visit there to vote for the Army of the Republic, sent by the mysterious Count Dooku. And apparently an assassin is out trying to kill her, and basically she needs protection. So Chancellor Palpatine calls upon two Jedi Knights, which are Obi-Wan Kenobi and Anakin Skywalker, to guide her. Now, one thing I was excited in this movie, which I thought they would explore mostly, is the relationship between Obi-Wan Kenobi and Anakin Skywalker. Mainly because in the first Star Wars movie that came out, Obi-Wan said that Luke's father was a good friend. So I thought they would see that, right? Well, let's see. Most of what they gave us was just an elevator scene where Obi-Wan and Anakin were speaking to each other, and that's it. Yeah. Not a dialogue, just an elevator scene. Padme sees Obi-Wan and Anakin again, and when Padme and Anakin get together again, something awkward happens. I'm not going to say what exactly, but the dialogue that George Lucas gives Anakin and Padme is a bit awkward in this scene, and I'll get into more of that later on. As they sit down and talk, and they say that they need to find the assassin. So later it cuts to that night, and Anakin and Obi-Wan are fighting with each other. It cuts back to that night, and Anakin is guarding Padme, and this one robot comes out and poops out these worm things. I don't know what these worm things are, and honestly, here's my problem with the thing. If you're gonna kill the senator, why not just have like a blaster or a bomb or something? Why poop out worms? I mean, listen, I don't want to be too nitpicky, but why poop out worms if you're trying to kill someone? Sense it, and Anakin comes in the room and kills both the worms. After he kills both the worms, Obi-Wan goes chasing after the robot, and they go on this highway chase through Coruscant. After Obi-Wan is chasing down the robot, Anakin is following Obi-Wan, and they go through this highway chase through Coruscant. Now, I didn't really have a problem with the scene, except there was just nothing emotionally involved in these characters. Here's the reason why. I think it was just a bit too goofy. I'm sorry, I mean, yes, I admit there was tons of CGI, and I wish they used less, but with a world like Coruscant, I guess they would have to use CGI. I don't know. There's something about this action scene that just didn't interest me. I mean, I love action movies. I mean, action is my favorite genre, so forgive me if I critique action scenes. It's just me personally. I judge a good or bad action scene. Find out that the person that was trying to kill Padme was hired by a bounty hunter named Jango Fett. The Jedi Council says Obi-Wan Kenobi to find Jango Fett, and here's another problem I have with this movie. The Jedi Council do nothing. Yes, I mean it. The Jedi Council does literally nothing this entire movie. Well, actually, not this entire movie, sorry. For the most of this movie, the Jedi Council does nothing. They send Obi-Wan on to do all their dirty work for the Council so they could just sit there. And I don't know what they do. They just sit. That's literally all the Jedi Council does, is just sit. Anakin and Padme go off with each other, so Anakin has to protect Padme along on Naboo. Now, this might be an interesting setup, considering that Anakin Skywalker is Darth Vader in the future, and Padme Amidala may be the mother of Luke and Leia. So, could we get some interesting romantic dialogue? Well, too bad, guys. There's no good dialogue in this movie. Here's the reason why. There's no connection between Padme and Anakin. The love dialogue that George Lucas gives it to is just, so cringeworthy. Here are just some examples of the dialogue in Attack of the Clones.
We used to lie out on the sand and let the sun dry us, and try to guess the names of the birds singing.
I don't like sand. It's coarse and rough and irritating, and it gets everywhere. Not like here. And when I I got to them, we went into aggressive negotiations. Thank you.
Aggressive negotiations, what's that?
Well, negotiations with a lightsaber. If Master Obi-Wan caught me doing this, he'd be very grumpy.
Now that I'm with you again, I'm in agony. The closer I get to you, the worse it gets. I'm haunted by the kiss that you should never have given me. My heart is beating, hoping that that kiss will not become a scar. You are in my very soul, tormenting me. What can I do? I will do anything that you ask. If you're suffering as much as I am, please tell me.
It's so creepy. That's my main problem with this movie. George Lucas said himself he set out for Attack of the Clones to be a love story. The love story in this movie is just so cringeworthy, so bad. There's no connection between Anakin and Padme. And Padme, all the time she does in this movie, it says, we can't be together, we can't be together. Then why are you wearing these slutty clothes? Anyway, after they have a few forced terrible love dialogue scenes in here, Anakin gets these nightmares about his mother and goes back to Tatooine, where he learns that his mother is dead. Now this scene is actually one of my favorite scenes in the movie, and here's the reason why this scene is awesome in my opinion. Because this is a scene, in my opinion, from Attack of the Clones that shows Anakin's true turn to the dark side. It shows Anakin going into a camp of sand people. He saw her hanging down. He picks her up, and she says her last words to him, which are, and she dies in his arms. Right as she dies in his arms, he looks down for a second and looks back up. And that look is such an evil look, and you can tell that he was turning to the dark side in that moment. That was one of my favorite scenes from Attack of the Clones, this movie. So you think, oh, this will show Anakin's return to the dark side, right? That we should, a quick turn to Obi-Wan Kenobi, who again is doing all the dirty work for the Jedi Council, because let's face it, all the Jedi Council does is sit on their lazy butts all day. Anyways, as he's out there doing the Camino there, we get our first look at Jango Fett. Now, Jango Fett, I actually like. I like the character. Let's face it, he's pretty much Boba Fett, but dies a cooler death. My only problem is whenever Jango Fett shows up, Boba Fett shows up. Nah, be warned. I love Boba Fett. Boba Fett is one of my favorite characters in the Star Wars saga. But the kid they get to play Boba Fett. Imagine Jake Lloyd acting as Anakin Skywalker from the Phantom Menace. Taken and made him more annoying, more aggressive, and more of just, I don't know what it is. It's just the kid that plays Boba Fett in this movie is freaking terrible. The kid that plays Boba Fett is so annoying, so cringeworthy, it's just, watch it. Anyway, but I like the character of Jango Fett, just, I don't like they did with Boba Fett. I don't like what they did with Boba Fett, that's all. Back to Tatooine, and it shows Anakin and Padme with another love dialogue scene. But this scene is ridiculous. This is some of the worst set of dialogue that I've seen in this movie so far.
What's wrong, Annie?
I killed them. I killed them all. They're dead. Every single one of them. And not just the men, but the women. And the children, too. They're like animals, and I slaughtered them like animals. I hate them.
at a serious moment. Wow. Yeah. That's what I did. That's what I was doing. I was laughing at bad dialogue and bad acting. Because that's what I was doing. It was that bad. Anyway, Anakin and Padme and the Jedi Council get a transmission from Obi-Wan, who's on Geonosis now. He was tracked down by Jango Fett, but he's on Geonosis now, and he's discovered that the Separatists, which are the droid army, are on the planet of Geonosis. And after that, the Separatists capture Obi-Wan Kenobi, and then the Jedi Council decides, oh, we still must not go to war, but we still must save Obi-Wan. Anakin and Padme decide to go up there and help Obi-Wan Kenobi themselves. Anyway, while Obi-Wan is trapped, he is visited by Count Dooku, who is a former member by the Jedi Knights, explained by Mace Windu early on in the film. He explains to Obi-Wan that the reason why he left the Jedi Knights is because he found out that in the Senate there was a secret Sith known as Darth Sidious secretly controlling the Senate, and Obi-Wan says that's not possible. There's no way that that can happen. After that's the dialogue, it actually starts to get a bit interesting, but we already know it's Palpatine. Let's face it, we already know it's Palpatine. After that, it cuts back to Coruscant, where the Senate meetings are going on. After that, it cuts back to the Senate meetings, where the meetings decide whether there's an army, whether they should or shouldn't have a clone army go in there. And Jar Jar. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention. Jar Jar Binks is Padme Amidala's replacement in this movie while she is gone being safe on Naboo. And he proposes that all emergency provocations will be given to the Chancellor. Meaning that the entire fate of the Clone Wars was decided by Jar Jar. Wow.
Misa proposed that the Senate give immediately emergency powers to the Supreme Chancellor.
Star Wars, this can't happen. Star Wars was decided by Jar Jar. Star Wars was made by Jar Jar. Jar Jar made Star Wars. Ah! Mace Windu takes a bunch of Jedi Knights and goes to Coruscant. It's so cartoonish and cheesy. Now, when I was a kid, I liked this scene. I thought it was intense. But when I see it now, I don't think it's intense at all. It's too lazy and it's too put together. It's literally the most useless scene in this movie. I'm sorry, this scene is useless. But after that happens, Jango Fett captures Padme, and they get sent along with Obi-Wan Kenobi to put in this big, gigantic gladiator-like arena. Now, this arena is pretty good, I'm not gonna lie. It's not a bad constructed scene, and the CGI for the scene is not done well. It's just, I wish it was used on other things. But the creatures in this movie just look too CGI, in my opinion. In fact, the scene begins. Padme says to Anakin the worst line of love dialogue that comes between these two. She says, Annie, I love you. But then Anakin doesn't realize, it's like, but you said our love was forbidden. You said that we can't be together. And she says, I truly, deeply love you. You don't need to say it! Once you said I love you, that means I love you! Oh. And after this, Obi-Wan, Anakin, and Padme are in this gladiator-like arena, and of course, they're about to be eaten by monsters. Of course, eventually they escape, and Mace Windu and the Jedi Council take hold of the arena and attack the droid army. This is actually one of my favorite scenes in this movie. I actually like this scene a lot. It shows the Jedi Council with their lightsabers, they get out their lightsabers, finally doing something besides sitting, and they have a big battle with the droid army. Now this scene is actually really well done. I actually like this scene a lot. Plus this is also the scene where Jango Fett dies. Now, I actually like the way they killed off Jango Fett. I mean, it's not bad, but it's better than the way Boba Fett died. After this battle happens, the droid army surrounds them, and finally Master Yoda comes in with the clone army, and this big battle happens between the clones and the droids. Now, I would like this scene. However, there's nothing emotionally happening. You can't get emotionally involved with the scene because, let's face it, battle droids and clones. Non-human versus non-human that don't have feelings that you don't know anything about, so honestly, there's nothing to get emotionally involved with in the battles, so I don't really know. Anyways, after the battle happens, Anakin and Obi-Wan decide to go after Count Dooku, both themselves, and this lightsaber battle is a little... Sorry, my pardon my forgetting this, but it's a little too choreographed. Now, what I mean is, the choreography of the lightsabers wasn't realistic enough. In the original trilogy, it was realistic enough because you could feel the tension and you could get emotionally involved. This one, it looks like dancing. I'm sorry, it looks like dancing. In fact, there's literally one scene where Count Dooku and Anakin Skywalker are in the dark, and all they're doing is just in the dark. It makes no sense. Then Obi-Wan gets injured, then Anakin gets his hand cut off, of course, as we've seen him in Return of the Jedi. But then Master Yoda comes in to face off against Count Dooku. And here's one thing I don't like. Forgive me for saying this, but Yoda takes out a lightsaber, and I don't think that Yoda should have had a lightsaber. Hear me out. What Yoda stood for in Star Wars was you don't need a weapon to destroy something, and that's what he stood for. So giving him a lightsaber, I mean, I'm still up for the idea. But it's just the scene with Yoda and Count Dooku is also too choreographed. Because all Yoda is doing is flipping in the air. That's literally all he's doing. I mean, sorry for that. It's just, all he's doing is flipping in the air. The entire duel is flipping in the air. There's nothing special about it. He's not using the Force, so yeah. After that, long story short, Count Dooku gets away. Anakin Skywalker gets a new robotic arm. The Clone Wars began. And Anakin and Padme get secretly married. But here's the thing, though. The clones never really attacked. Now you might say, what about that one now? Technically, you might want to say the Jedi really attacked. So, why is this movie called Attack of the Clones? I don't know. I don't know why this movie is called Attack of the Clones. But another main negative that I forgot to bring in here is the story issue. This movie has so many storyline issues. Most of the story in Attack of the Clones is mainly trying to set up for other Star Wars movies. Now, I like Easter eggs and setting up for other films, but you have to tell your story first. And I thought George Lucas would understand this concept. This man wrote the original Star Wars, which had a perfect story. The original trilogy was not only based on action, it was based on story. And Attack of the Clones lacks in story. I mean, people said, oh, the storyline was good. I didn't think the storyline was good at all. It dragged on too much, and it was too boring. In the end, overall, guys, although Attack of the Clones had a good character in Jango Fett, and there were some action scenes that were cool, it had too much CGI, terrible dialogue, some action scenes were actually really not well done, terrible humor, terrible stories, not enough action, terrible villains, terrible heroes, terrible chemistry between Anakin Skywalker and Padme Amidala. This is probably one of my least favorite Star Wars movies. I give Star Wars Episode 2, Attack of the Clones, a D.
As I walk through the valley where I harvest my